People often say Vikings died young, that they rarely lived past 30, but that number hides a deeper truth. It hides the children who never reached adulthood, and the elders who lived long enough to remember everything. This is not a story about how long Vikings lived. It's a story about who survived and why. For a Viking, the most dangerous years of life came first, before battle, before travel, before the long winters of adulthood. Nearly half of all Viking children never reached adulthood, not because of war, but because of life itself. Disease moved quietly through longhouses. Infections followed small cuts and untreated wounds. Cold weakened bodies, already short on strength, an illness that would be minor today. A fever, a fall, a simple infection was often final in the Viking world. Archaeology shows us small graves clustered close together, bones that never grew to full strength, lives measured not in decades, but in seasons. And yet, if a child survived these early years, everything changed. Life expectancy did not rise slowly. It shifted suddenly, almost abruptly. Once survival was proven, a Viking who reached adolescence had already passed the hardest test. The body hardened. The immune system learned. Experience replaced fragility. Longevity in the Viking Age was not random. It was filtered. To live long, a Viking first had to survive when survival was least forgiving. Only then could life begin. Vikings did not eat lavishly every day. Most days were ordinary, measured, careful. Their lives moved between scarcity and abundance, between seasons of enough and seasons of waiting. Long winters could stretch on endlessly. Harvests sometimes failed without warning. Salted meat was rationed, not celebrated. Food was never assumed. It was planned. When crops failed, they turned to the sea. Fishing filled the gaps that fields could not. Rivers, coasts, and fjords became lifelines. They stored what they could. They dried fish in the wind. They fermented meat and dairy. They preserved not for flavor, but for survival. Archaeology reveals storage pits, fish bones, and tools worn smooth by repetition. Evidence of people who thought ahead, who treated food as a system, not a luxury. Those who survived longest were rarely the strongest or the bravest. They were the most disciplined. They understood that food was strategy, a form of insurance against the unknown. In the Viking world, those who respected hunger lived longer than those who ignored it. The North was unforgiving. Cold was not a season. It was a constant presence, shaping every decision, every movement, every breath. The body aged faster in the cold. Joints stiffened early. Lungs carried the weight of smoke and frozen air. Exhaustion settled deep into muscle and bone. Arthritis, lung disease, and chronic fatigue were not exceptions. They were expected companions of age. And yet, Vikings did not try to defeat winter. They learned to live with it. They built systems, not luxuries. Longhouses insulated with turf and earth. Shared hearths that conserved fuel. Low ceilings that trapped heat close to the body. Smoke filled their homes, stinging the eyes and lungs, but holding warmth where it mattered most. Survival favored those who respected winter's rules, those who understood that warmth was something to manage, not waste. In the Viking world, the cold could not be conquered, only endured, patiently, year after year. Popular stories tell us that Vikings died by the sword, that their lives ended in battle, on distant shores, with weapons in hand. The truth is quieter, and far more ordinary. Most Viking men never died fighting. Most Viking women never saw war at all. Archaeology shows fewer battle wounds than legend suggests. What it reveals instead are healed fractures, worn joints, and damaged spines. The marks of labor, not warfare. Violence did shorten some lives. Raids were dangerous. Travel was uncertain. But accidents claimed more lives than enemies. Infections followed small injuries. Farming tools, livestock, and heavy loads took their toll. The greatest threat was not a rival clan or foreign army. It was daily life itself. Every task carried risk. Every mistake had consequences. In the Viking world, death rarely arrived in glory. It came quietly, through work, exposure, and exhaustion. Men and women faced different risks in the Viking world. Their lives were shaped by labor, but not by the same dangers. Men were more likely to die young. Long voyages weakened the body. Combat carried obvious risk. Heavy physical strain left lasting damage that accumulated year after year. Broken bones, worn joints, and spinal injuries appear frequently in male skeletons. Not all from battle. Many from work that never truly ended. Women faced a different boundary. Childbirth. Each pregnancy balanced life on fragile margins. Complications, infection, and blood loss could end a life quickly and without warning. And yet, those who survived their early adult years, especially women who lived beyond childbearing age, often lived surprisingly long lives. Archaeology reveals elderly women with strong bone structure and healed injuries, lives that endured after the most dangerous years had passed. Longevity in the Viking Age was uneven, shaped by chance, biology, and labor, but it was real. A lone Viking rarely lived long. Survival in the north was never an individual achievement. It was collective, shared, earned together. Life depended on community, family, kinship, shared labor, shared food. No one farmed alone. No one built alone. No one endured winter alone. When illness came, others carried the load. When injury struck, work was redistributed. When age slowed the body, knowledge replaced strength. The elderly were not discarded. They were preserved. They held memory of past winters, past famines, past mistakes. They held law, the rules that kept order without written words. They held experience, the kind that only survival could teach. Archaeology shows older individuals buried with care, not neglect. Lives valued beyond physical labor. Those protected by their people lived longer. Those who belonged endured. In the Viking world, standing alone was not strength. It was risk. Not all Vikings lived the same life. Status and skill shaped survival as much as strength or courage. A skilled craftsperson often lived longer than a reckless raider. Their hands created value that did not require constant risk. Their work could be done close to home, within the protection of community. A landholder lived longer than a drifter. Land meant stability, predictable food, shelter that did not change with every season. Knowledge extended life. Understanding weather, tools, and timing reduced unnecessary danger. Experience taught when to act and when to wait. Caution was not weakness. It was wisdom earned through survival. Archaeology shows fewer traumatic injuries among those whose lives were built around skill rather than force. Less damage, more repair. In the Viking world, survival was shaped less by bravery and more by judgment. So did Vikings live short lives? Many did. Many never reached adulthood at all. Graves of children are common in Viking burial grounds. They remind us that survival was never guaranteed. But the story changes when we look beyond the averages. Those who survived the early years, who endured childhood, disease, hunger, and cold, entered a different phase of life. They adapted. They belonged to families and communities that protected them. They learned when to take risks and when to hold back. Archaeology reveals individuals who lived into their 50s and 60s, elders with healed injuries, bones marked not by youth, but by endurance. They lived long enough to become keepers of memory, long enough to remember harsh winters, distant wars, and personal loss. The Viking lifespan was not short by design. It was selective. Longevity belonged to those who endured. When we speak of Viking lifespan, we are really speaking about survival filters, not numbers, not averages. Statistics flatten lives into neat lines, but archaeology tells a quieter story, one shaped by endurance, loss, and adaptation. Here, in the shadows of prehistory, longevity was never guaranteed. It was earned, slowly, unevenly, and often at great cost. Those who lived long did not defeat nature. They learned its rhythms. They accepted its limits. They survived childhood. They endured hunger and cold. They belonged to people who carried them when strength failed. Time did not spare them. It tested them. And sometimes, the longest life was not the one filled with conquest or fame, but the one that endured long enough to be remembered by others. This is where Prehistoric Shadows lingers, not in legends of glory, but in the quiet truth that survival itself was the greatest achievement of all.